All right, welcome back to another episode of the Extreme Lifestyle Living Podcast. Now, today I'm really excited to talk about is depression. And the avenue that I want to talk about with depression is I want to talk about, the impact that it's had on my life, negatively, impact that it's had on my life positively. And I really want to just, bring some light to, just the good, the bad, the value, and the impact, like everything about it. Because, my entire life existence right now has been built off the back of my depression. And, if I had not experienced what I had gone through as a child, young adult, through my teens, none of what I'm doing currently would have been possible. My turmoil and life struggles are the reason I am who I am today. And this simple deciding factor of using my depression and deciding and being in authority, proactive with choosing that, allowing my depression not to define me, allowed me to create my life where it is now. And I think, understanding my depression has given me the blueprint to build this life. And I just want to give a little bit of a background of when it began, as far as I can remember. I haven't talked about this in probably, honestly, almost a few years, to be honest. The podcast has been going for a while. But I just think the biggest thing with depression is the commonality, what I talked with my clients is mental health. Mindset. It's a big tone of who I am as a person. In depression and anxiety, the two biggest culprits, depression being the thicker of the two. Anxiety, I like to explain, is more of, I'm not going to devalue or, compare the two by any means. They both have their own adversities, but I feel like depression, if you've really have dealt with a deep depression, it can create some turmoil in your life. And I think the biggest thing with just talking about it and being honest about it is just being able to share the sides of it that are out there. And for me growing up, I can just remember being depressed as a very young kid because of going in and out of foster care and just having that thick layer of a blanket of a damper of just negativity, and then I was adopted to my grandmother. She wasn't the most positive minded, she never articulated herself in a positive way, positive lifestyle, none of that stuff there. Not saying she did anything to 100% degrade me as a person, but just the turmoil and negativity cycle that my family has been in for the past generations is what it is, and I know a lot of you guys can relate from just having negative parents, negative just energy in the house, like alcoholism, drug abuse, abuse of other avenues that we don't need to get into. It just is what it is, and it happens so much more in people's families. And there's millions of reasons why depression gets kickstarted. And for me personally, I can just remember being a young child and just really becoming aware at a young age that things weren't normal. And then the thickness of the depression when I became 17, 18, 19 years old got heavy to the point where, you start drinking more and get introduced to some drugs, mind altering things, and, substance abuse, things just kind of begin to get real quick, And I think the biggest thing that I've learned about looking internally about my depression and the commonality with my clients and talking about them embracing their turmoil of their brain is the clarity you get through it. And that's why I want to talk about the impact that it can bring, but also we can't neglect the bad, So it's as you embrace and are willing to embrace this negative side of your life, and honestly, even me saying that it's a negative side of your life isn't the right verbiage to articulate it, because there's only negativity if you allow it. However, again, that's where it becomes a very paradoxical conversation, because I don't want to say it's subjective, but it's I don't want to say it's not negative when it is bad, because it's you can't deny what is. There are some things that have happened to all of us in our life that we don't want to talk about, for me, it was always just growing up with my mom being a, prostitute, things like this. And I don't even like saying it that way. It makes me feel even weird saying it on the podcast like that, but it's she fucking hates me for saying shit like that. But it's however you want to define it is what it is. There's some people that have been through different levels of abuse. Myself, I have a lot of clients that have been, that damper your life, and it's not, you don't want to label them as negative times in your life, but it's hard to, like I said, balance that that negativity viewpoint on it without denying the bad, because it's I don't want to look at it as a positive situation. And that's not what I'm saying with my depression here. I'm just saying I've used my depression in a positive manner, and that's how I'm going to kind of tie out the podcast, is talk about Once you understand your depression and the thickness of the blanket and kind of where it stems from, and kind of go through that turmoil and that storm of understanding the different layers of thickness that you have as depression, the different parts of your life, the different patterns you've been into, the different conditions you've been like just kind of stuck into to kind of live amongst your depressive state, that's when you begin to, like, as you embrace them and gain clarity of the patterns and, create that new life, the new foundation, add new patterns, all these different things, you really start to realize that, you have depressive symptoms and you're no longer living depressed. And it's that fine balance of understanding where you're at with that. And the biggest reason why I'm saying all this is because, again, like with depression and all of us understanding mental health for our own personal relationships with it, it's like I feel like just leading by example and just sharing your personal experiences, and then getting into the educational side of things, and maybe more actionable side of things is just so impactful. Because none of my life right now, being able to be a mindset and performance coach and help people with their mental health build their lifestyles around their goals and who they want to be, and help their life align with who they want to become, built through fitness, built through movement, built through nutrition patterns, all these different things. I would not have been able to been so strong in this area and become such an authority and build such a strong community and business off of it if I did not look internally and go through all of the shit that I went through with my depression. I remember when I got 17, 18, 19 years old, I really started to understand the depths of what my mom's life looked like. Like, we don't have to talk about it because like, that's what I'm saying, things like this. How do I look at that in a positive manner? And I do look at it in a positive manner because I can sit here in my house, record a podcast, and we're talking about it. You see what I'm saying? 20, 21, 23, I started getting into heavy drug addictions that laid thick the depression, especially when you're fucking with mind-altering hormone drugs like your serotonin, your dopamine, your receptors, everything gets shot. You get into these new lifestyle patterns. And, the reason why I think it's so impactful to share is because all of us can relate on some different degree of it. And I think, all of us can find power and clarity through our own stories. And that's the whole point of it, So I think the biggest thing about that I want to highlight with my depression is, like, I don't want to say I'm not depressed anymore. I still struggle with understanding the difference between that and, like, depressive symptoms, like, full transparency. As I'm recording this podcast episode, like, I gave myself a little bit of a break before working, and that's even new, and I only gave myself a half-hour break, for fuck's sakes. And I just, like, that's a balance for me. I'm just so used to, which what I'm going to say is, like, the conditioned patterns of being depressed. There's a quote that I heard recently that sparked so heavy with depression, was like, you don't really know how bad it is until you feel something great. And it's like, for me and my family, talking about generations of just turmoil, like, shit, like, you know what I mean? When I looked internally, and if you've been here for a while, I talk about, like, you when you start to realize no one in your family has had what you're searching for, you kind of let it go. I can't blame mom for not giving me something she's never had, and X, Y, and Z and so forth. So, I think, like, once you understand the conditioned lifestyle patterns you once were in, like, you fall victim to, it's about understanding, like, what can we get to transition out of those symptoms or out of those conditioned patterns. And, I think that's where the fine line comes with, like, balancing, am I depressed or am I struggling with depressive symptoms? Because, like I said, you can't deny what you had gone throughout the course of your life that has created these gaps within your mental health and your mindset that you're struggling to embrace, because the weight of them is heavy, but the more you allow the negative aura around them to survive and kind of, like, control the vulnerability of the weight of it, because, again, if it's heavy, you feel burdened with your emotions someday, and you're like, why can't I just get through the day, or why do I feel blocked? And it's because, you're not allowing yourself privy to certain parts of your life and your brain. So I think it's like a matter of balancing, those specific weight and value and degree of what actually had happened. My car accident, easy example because it's physical trauma, and I don't want to relate anyone's mental trauma because that's very subjective to the person struggling with it, and on a different scale and a whole different convo. My physical adversities I have gotten from the car accident, like, I can't deny the things that I have got from that. Wrecked T-spine, right rotator cuff a little bit injured, and then I got a pelvic floor injury because of the hernia. So to a degree, that does affect me in a lot of manners, but I can't allow the situation and the severity of the actual day of the car accident, what has caused in my life 15 years ago, to ruin maybe some of the physical symptoms and adversities I feel today. No different than any mental ones. We can't deny, maybe you had something happen in the past, physically, emotionally, lots of long list of what we could talk about, but, we're not going to deny the heaviness and what had happened. And that's the biggest thing with depression. However, it's really becoming clear as to, when are the patterns that are just relevant from those times in your life privy to today's access, just because you're, maybe just trying to figure it out. And that's the thing that I think is so impactful about sharing your story with depression and what you've been through with your life, is because that's where the beauty of it comes through. That's where the garden of your life is grown, is through that turmoil and clarity. Because prime example, the Monday Night Huddle calls, if you come to them, you see how impactful they are and how much more impactful they have become over the last 3 to 6 months, because of everyone being together for so long and watching each other grow. So the sharing, the people are kind of shooting people across the Zoom call, being calling each other out in positive manners, because we've watched each other grow so long. So we're all calling each other out on the depressive patterns we're stuck in as we're not celebrating the wins, So we're all helping each other out. So that's all through us sharing our own experiences through depression, anxiety, and things like that. And I think that's just the biggest thing that gives so much value and impact from sharing your stories, But I just wanted to say, if it was not for my depression, and if it was not for my willingness to embrace the thickness of it, no matter how fucking hard it was, and every single one of my clients, how willing I am to get in the thick of it with you. You want to speak, I'm here to listen, because, I think the biggest thing with depression is that like I said, it's subjective to the person struggling with it, but we all struggle. And that's just what it is, and if I'm willing to share my struggle, then that's the value and that's the impact, and then together and individually, we can both heal. And I think that's the most impactful, valuable thing within it. Because at the end of the day, we're all human, trying to become better versions. Asterisks, I hope so. At least the people I associate with. And I think, just depression is a secret killer, primarily amongst men. I don't want to get into stats of that, but especially amongst a lot of other people, So I can only speak from a man's perspective, but I think that's why it's so much more important for me to kind of just stand tall within it and be that example. Because again, and I don't want to say get off a different tangent, talk about the power of community, but I would not be sitting here as concrete as a man, concrete as a business owner, concrete as a coach, concrete as a podcaster doing this right now, if I had not tackled my depression and literally look at every single nook and cranny that came with it and why. To a degree, you don't want to fucking get obsessed with certain avenues of your life, but I think there is a certain due diligence you do owe to yourself, certain access to these memories to gain clarity for you to move forward. Because it's not saying anything about, like I said, it's not, I don't want to go on tangents and nothing, but it's not about anything about looking up at the past and oh fuck, I've been through all this stuff. But it's really about allowing yourself the clarity to move past it, because a lot of us carry it, don't even realize it. That's why I hit everyone with that quote, that it's you don't really realize it's bad until you feel something fucking great, and then it's damn, I never realized it could be this great. And it's the sooner you find that greatness for you within your life, which can be found through looking internally and embracing all this stuff through depression, is the faster you can just gain that access to that level of life you're looking for. But obviously mental health, depression is very passionate for me. I'm going to stop rambling and going off about it, because I'm really excited to get to where I'm at in my life right now. The next round of few podcasts are going to be so heavily involved with mental health and just mindset. And I don't know, it's crazy. My growth lately has been insane, and I'm just super excited to be where I'm at. I'm super excited to be to see where everyone else is at. And like I'm saying, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the depression. Going through it, and isn't that fucking impactful? Just say that the worst thing in my life happened to be the best thing in my life. Crazy. Anyways, I hope you guys have the absolute best fucking week of your guys' life. If there's anything you guys ever need, let me know, and just keep doing you guys do best, which is show the fuck up. Let's go.